Hi, I'm Robert Jackman, and thank you for watching my channel, The Art of Practical Wisdom. Today I want to talk with you about my new book, The Tender Path of Grief and Loss, Compassionate Stories and Practical Wisdom to Help You Heal. I've been working on this book for over a year, and it took me on a journey of exploring my own losses, my own grief, as well as talking with others who have gone through similar paths, who have walked down the long, lonely roads of dealing with loss, and how they and how I have come out the other side of it. I wanted to write a book that would normalize the loss experience for all of us and help give some guidance and some opportunities for healing, some ways that the reader can explore new ways of looking at losses, new ways of approaching grief that maybe other books don't talk about. I've already had someone mention about this book that it helps to normalize some loss experiences. I take the reader through experiences such as my mom dying, my dad dying, and other situations that I've had in my life that have been losses to me, as well as 8 story contributors. And each of the story contributors in the book, they bring in their own journey, their own path of grieving that they've gone down. It could be a job loss, it could be the loss of a spouse, death of a spouse, it could be the death of a child from suicide, or a chronic illness diagnosis. All of these represent different losses that are normal. Maybe they're not happening to you, but they've probably happened to someone that you know. And that's what this is about. It's about normalizing the grief and loss experience, helping to find a place for all of this to live within us. If you wouldn't mind, let me read just a little bit of what this book's about. When you're willing to face the losses you've experienced or are experiencing now, you will find yourself on the tender path of grief and loss. You embark on this path when you begin to address and hold what happened without resistance. This acknowledgement is a signal that your grief journey has begun. You will bravely and lovingly move through the loss by claiming your own time within each phase of the tender path. So this book will help you create a framework around your loss or losses. I talk about how sometimes we have cumulative losses, meaning more than one, that sort of stack up like pancakes within us. And we just shove these down into what I term the loss bucket. And they just sort of languish there. And they're sitting there and they really tug on us and they weigh us down, often contributing to symptoms of anxiety and depression. So many people walk around with unacknowledged losses. And that's what I really help the reader to begin to identify. This is something that I see in my psychotherapy practice where people come in and they have these losses that they're not even recording as a loss. I'm working with a woman who is diagnosed with a chronic illness, and she wasn't referencing that as a loss in her life, loss of mobility, loss of being able to do just things that a short time ago came very natural to her, but now she can't do them. And so by acknowledging, by naming and claiming the loss, she's able to experience that loss differently. She's developing a new relationship to the loss. And that's what it's about. We can't always change the circumstance, but we can change our perspective. We can change how we relate to the situation. So through the stories and through what I call a later chapter in the book is an honoring chapter. And so in that chapter, I give ways of honoring through breath work, through guided imagery, symbolic letter writing, all these different ways of working through and processing that deep loss, doing the grief work, helping you transform that energy inside of you so it's not so heavy and so it doesn't weigh on you so much. So, everything that I'm asking you to do as a reader, I've done. So, I've walked this walk. Going through and writing this book over the last year, in many ways, mirrored a grief and loss journey for me because I had to explore things that certainly I've talked about and worked through, but now I had to put it into words for you to read. And so I had to experience them in a new way. I had to explore deeper parts of them that I hadn't really felt before. So as you go through this book, what a lot of people say is that they feel that I'm there with them as they read the book. And I really am, because I've done all the work that I'm asking you to do. I've examined all the things that I'm asking you to examine. And what I want you to know is that there's a wholeness on the other side of this. I reference three phases on the tender path of the shock wave, which is that initial just jarring realization that a death occurred or a loss has happened. And then the second phase, which is the stretch, where we're really stretched into this experience, where we're having to really adjust, and it's sort of this push and pull. We don't want it to be there, but it's there. So we're forming a relationship to it. And the third phase is called the solace. And that's really where we enter into, we sort of meld into this place of acceptance. We still don't like it. I still miss my mom who died 13 years ago, my dad who died 5 years ago. I miss them terribly. But I'm entering into that solace phase of holding space for that uncomfortable reality within me. It's surrendering to this part of our journey where we say, this has happened, and this is the place I can hold this now. But that's sort of the arc of the journey, going from a place of total and utter disbelief to eventually landing on a place where you feel more whole. As you go through this process, one of the most effective ways to honor loss and to integrate loss is to normalize it and to have perspective on the situation, to be gentle with yourself as you do this. And I believe that maybe, like me, you will find some treasures within the grief and loss journey, meaning that there's some wisdom that comes from walking this path. There is a knowing and an understanding about ourselves and about life that I don't think that we can always find in other ways. As much as we want things to always be good and things to be happy, I don't think that we always learn our best lessons from those experiences. It's only when we're stretched, when we've gone through a shock, when we've entered into a place of solace, that we can hold this new reality, this new perspective on ourselves. The answer is not really looking and continue to look at why the loss happened, to move beyond that, to move into more of the meta of the entire experience, and look at finding how you can gently move into a relationship to the loss. I know many of you watching this video have probably gone through a loss that's incredibly hurtful to you, maybe a relationship loss, a betrayal, trauma, maybe it's the loss of a job, the loss of a spouse, a death. And I'm sorry you're going through that because I know that pain is really deep. Be gentle with yourself as you hold that pain. That pain has many messages for you, a tremendous amount of wisdom. In your own time, you'll be able to gently get into this process. You're determining the length the time you spend with this, how you do this, you're determining your grief and loss journey. I give and others give, we give ideas of how you can go through the process, but you really are defining it for yourself. These are just ideas. Some things you can pick up from me and from my 8 story contributors to help you understand a little bit more about how we've gone through it. And maybe it'll open your eyes to different perspectives in different ways. But what I want you to know is that there's hope. That's the real message of the book. That there's hope in the healing. There's hope in the process. There's hope in the journey. To not give up that hope. That there's light at the end, and that there's an expansion of self, a healing of self, and a return to wholeness. So be gentle with yourself as you do this work. And as always, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel so you can learn more about when other videos are coming out. And let me know what else you'd like to hear me talk about. I'd love to hear it back from you. Thank you so much, and blessings on your journey.